Better be
now.
good.
I
Man,
hope
I can
it's.
feel the switch. It's like a physical change in my body.
You got the jitters, the jitters.
The jitters. Yeah, I'm terrified. My mouth starts to sweat, which I guess is drool. Is that what mouth sweat is? Is
No,
drool?
not at all. Not there's no medical similarity at all, Eric.
Oh yeah, I guess I could ask you guys what everything is called in the body throughout our episodes.
Yes, that's
It's
true.
like studying. You're supposed to be studying for your exam thing, right?
Yep, I am. I'm taking step 3 in December.
Nice.
My wife was like, "This is the last one, right? You don't have to take any more tests for the rest of your life." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not really true." And I started to count, and I'm like, "If you count all the tests I have to take, including the ones like after, before you retire or whatever, like your re-licensure exams, I have 6 more of these exams. That's if I work till 70." So no, I'm
Wow.
never done.
You're never done.
That's
But
right.
you know what you are is on episode 32 of the Living Force podcast. Welcome, one and all. We are doing a special Saturday afternoon recording. So if you are live, thank you for tuning in. If not, totally fine. We usually do Monday nights, but because of crazy scheduling, we decided to get together on this, well, beautiful for me, but pretty rainy, I know, for you guys, Saturday afternoon. So
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and with me, as always, are the doctors, Dr. Corey Helton, hey buddy,
What's up? What's up?
and Dr. Charles Hankel, hey man,
Hello, gentlemen.
and our robot behind the keys, Wes, hey dude.
Audi.
All right, if you tuned into not last week, but the week before's episode, you will know that Wes was featured as a droid because of microphone difficulties. So this week we'll see what we can do. Wes is going to be our man in the chair, if you will, correcting us if we get stuff wrong, yelling out facts, being a genuinely lovely dude. So thanks for hanging out on the show.
Yeah, man, you got it. Beep boop.
All right.
Boop, boop.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's not lost. So today we are going to be doing our part 1 of our, I would say, fairly popular Roundtable series. I know a lot of you love when we talk about the books. So this episode, we are going to be talking about Resistance Reborn by Rebecca Rowanhorse, who we talked to on last week's episode of The Living Force. If you haven't checked out that interview, absolutely stop this right now and immediately go back and listen to that interview. It was a great time. But guys, we can't jump right into that. It'd be too easy. It'd be too simple. It'd be too satisfying. We got some business to get to first. First things first, we had a new patron this week in the old utini.com/Patreon. So I want to give a shout out to HollyMac79.
Hey.
Welcome.
What's up? What's up? Always good to have new
Welcome.
folks on the team. I hope you've gotten in our Discord to our general rowdiness and awfulness that happens there.
It's a lot. Our Discord has been crazy this week,
I know
guys.
it's been so much fun. It's been like the level that our Slack was like when I initially got the idea to like push the Discord out. Like this is why I wanted to do it, because this is what it was like in our Slack team, and I wanted to do this for the general public, and it took a long time to get it rolling, but now it's like active on a daily basis.
Yeah, I got off my shift last night in the ED, and there were over 250 unread messages.
That's amazing.
Wow. Well, and a lot of them are taking place in the Mandalorian channel, because every Friday, a lot of us will get up early, watch the show, and then we have a spoiler ban up until 9 a.m. Eastern time every Friday, and then we go full spoilers. You're chatting with your buddies all about the new episode.
Right.
So, HollyMac79, jump onto that Discord if you're not there already, and everyone else listening to the show, utini.com/Discord, come hang out and get over 250 notifications after your ED shift.
That's emergency department, not erectile dysfunction. Just to clarify.
I mess that up every time. I'm like an entire shift about erectile dysfunction. Useful. People need it. But that's not what it is.
Not this time.
A couple other things. We got some new reviews on the site over on the book profiles on Utini, where you can go. You can look up your book. You can leave your own star rating and little blurb. Rolando71, our buddy Ross, left a review for Darth Bane, Path of Destruction. It was a really great review. Said it's a crime. It's not canon. Which technically is true, but do you guys think Bane can ever come back with that story? Because I know he's been in the Clone Wars, he was mentioned, and we saw his kind of Force Ghost thing.
What with
Do you
Bane's
think those stories will ever be retold?
Bane's entire story, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bane series, like honestly, most stuff that happens prior to the Phantom Menace would be very easy to, like make canon. Now, let's clarify: they're never, ever, ever, ever in a million years. It's never going to happen. Take a Legends book and just peel off that golden banner. That's never going to
Yes.
happen. All right,
Nope.
That's like don't
No
get your
shot.
hopes up. It's never going to happen. It's a fun thing to wish for, but we're never going to see that. That's not their style at all.
Absolutely.
What we might see is some other mild retelling of stories, kind of like the way the Thrawn trilogy, has been sort of made in a lot of ways canon. Like they brought the character back and that sort of thing. And I think it would fit in perfectly fine with canon stuff. I mean, establish the rule of two. I mean, they talk about that stuff that would be very easy to reference. That it's Bane, like Yoda, or maybe something just has to say at some point like it was Bane, and that would be easy to do.
Yeah, we'll get that stuff eventually. I think Bane, Revan, Plagueis, all these stories eventually will get some retelling of them because they're too popular to not do it.
Yeah,
And
no
the time periods don't really butt up against anything else that's established.
Right.
Yeah, but in the meantime, if you haven't read the Darth Bane trilogy, absolutely do. Again, just because it has that Legends banner on it does not take away from the story at all. We're huge proponents of Legends on here, just as we are of canon. Go check out those stories, as Ross told you to. Another couple of reviews we got from our recent All-Star reviewer. They call me T13, who has been on the freaking warpath. I mean, so many book reviews. We got the episode 4 novelization, which I don't think we've had any reviews for before. The last line in the review I loved. It was also ducks.
Yes. Strange.
So,
I have no idea what that's in reference to.
Me neither. But it makes me want to read the book, which I think is a good part of a review. Also reviewed Dark Disciple, quoting, "I like Asajj more in this novel than the whole Clone Wars series," which I think is
true.
That's pretty.
Yeah,
I think that's a fairly universal opinion, don't you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We love that book. We read hard for Dark Disciple here. Queen Shadow, the book that must not be named, was also reviewed. Yep. And said they read it in one sitting because it was so good. They loved that book so much.
So I've been meaning to bring this up to you guys. We need to make another episode about Queen Shadow one of the Patreon rewards. There's goals, right? Like, but maybe when we get to I think we're sitting at like $170, and you can say like when we're at $200 or something. I think right now it says we'll do a film commentary, but honestly, I think it might be more fun to do something straight book stuff. So maybe we should make the $200 one like a Queen Shadow Roundtable again. Like,
I'm down.
Well, I'm down. Hey, I'm down to say that right now. Let's go off script. If we hit $200 a month on Patreon, we will do a full Queen Shadow Roundtable. And hey, maybe we can hit that number by the time the 1 year anniversary of the book comes around. That'd be really cool.
That would be fun.
Yeah. But also, Matt, edit all of this out, please.
Just because we don't want to have tech problems. If you are new to this show, we did do a Queen Shadow Roundtable way back in the day, twice, but the audio got corrupted every single time. So we really got to get that done. So if you are a current patron and you want that to happen, maybe check out the next tier. If you're not a patron and man, you love that book, you want to hear us talk about it, choose a couple bucks a month. We'd be happy to do it. And finally, T13 rounded out their review roundup with the Last Jedi film novelization. Says didn't quite do it for him.
Yeah. Which is kind of
pretty standard.
Yeah, that was. I cut out for a second. Did you say that was which movie was it?
The Last Jedi.
Oh, The Last Jedi. Yeah, but we talked about that not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just an expanded edition that doesn't expand on much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's kind of my feeling on it. It's
movie.
good, but
yeah, does a fine job. But for a novelization, you really want to expand, like Mur Lafferty did with the Solo novelization, something like that.
Outside of the deleted scenes that you have already watched on the DVD.
Precisely. A couple more Yutini updates before we dive into some Resistance Reborn. Guys, we are, at the time of recording, 2 episodes into our new Patreon series, Bounty Hunt.
Yeah. Which
has been us talking about every episode of The Mandalorian. By the time this releases publicly on Friday, I'll guarantee that 3rd episode will be up.
That's right.
And it might be my favorite thing we're doing right now.
I know. It's so fun to get together and talk about Star Wars because, we do all this EU stuff, but, we're obviously all huge fans like the films and TV shows and things like that. We just don't really get to talk about it. So it's really fun to look forward to to getting together with just you guys, because like by the time we usually record, there's been a couple days of water cooler talk and that sort of thing with our peers and friends and that sort of stuff. So we have a lot of cool stuff that I feel like to bring to the conversation. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah. And that shows it's been a little more from the hip. It's a little less structured than this show, but we've been having a great time. The episodes are shorter, and if you are a patron at the Guardian of the Wills $5 level or above, that is available to you along with Legends Look Back, which, funny enough, I will be recording an episode of later today. I'll be doing the Clone Wars Wild Space book with our buddies Jared and Freddie. So if you are a patron, make sure you check that out. A couple other plugs. This week, so Tuesday, November 26th, or Monday the 25th, Friends of the Force, a buddy of ours, Brad Whipple's podcast, will be publishing a show that we were all on last week. The three of us went on there with Brad to talk about this very book.
Yeah.
We kind of did a little mini roundtable with him, similar to kind of what we do on here, but it definitely had a different vibe as Brad was hosting, and I had a ton of fun on that show. I think it was a really cool time.
Yeah. We sort of approached the book, I think, from kind of the way we do a lot of times in our second part of like kind of big picture stuff. But Brad is obviously much more in tune with certain communities in Star Wars, and then also like he's very in tune with like the films and things like that, which we don't really touch as much. So like it was almost like talking about Resistance Reborn from the standpoint of why it matters for the Rise of Skywalker, and that was not like what we usually do. So that was fun and different, and like even if you listen to our two-part episode here on the book, like I would really suggest going to listen to it because it's very different than what we do things. So.
Absolutely. So if you're somehow not sick of our voices by the end of this episode, you got probably 3 episodes of Bounty Hunt, you got some Legends Look Back episodes, and you got some Friends of the Force. So plenty of content coming your way because November will not quit.
That's right.
A couple more things up on the site. The full review of this book, Resistance Reborn, is up. There's a no spoiler one by me. Charles wrote our full review. We published that. It's phenomenal. And then we have the no spoilers review of Force Collector, which I put up because that came out last week as well. And then finally, we got a little review of the Rebel Starfighters Owner Manual, which I got to read. The folks at Insight threw to me. If you've read any of the manuals about the Millennium Falcon, the Death Star, TIE Fighters, they put one out finally for all the Rebel Starfighters. And I put up a review kind of showing some pictures, detailing what's in that book. So tons of content coming to you on Utini as always. Whoo, man, guys, we do a lot.
That was the longest exasperated sigh we've ever heard from a host.
I know,
Sarah Kylerson.
Dude, all this has been happening while we have been watching The Mandalorian and playing freaking Jedi Fallen Order.
I know. I essentially I posted in our Slack team yesterday, I guess, like, hey, let's all just enjoy December. We're going to postpone all major projects until after the start of the new year because there's literally just so much stuff happening right now that like I don't want to start anything major for for Utini like in this insane time. Like just get ready to watch the film. That's all you really need to focus on.
That's your homework.
That's right.
All right. Well, on that, before you watch that film, you should probably read Resistance Reborn. And if you're listening to this podcast, we assume either A, you already have, or B, you're not going to get the time and you want to know all about it. So without further ado, I'm going to throw this over to Charles, who is the king, the master, the maestro of running these roundtable episodes. And he's going to kind of take us through all you need to know about Resistance Reborn. Take it away, man.
All right, no pressure. Yeah, let's do this. So, let's start out this roundtable as we start out all roundtables. And let's do a little plot synopsis, and then we will rate the book. All right, so Resistance Reborn, it's written by Rebecca Roanhorse, who, again, you two just got to interview. And it tells the story of the Resistance forces attempting to rebuild immediately after their near destruction at the Battle of Crait. So a list of imprisoned ex-rebels and Imperials goes up for auction on Corellia, and it seems like their best shot to rebuild. So Leia, Poe, Rey, Finn, Rose, a whole host of new and old faces alike split up, lead separate missions to retrieve that list, liberate some of the prisoners on it, and in the meantime, steal a new fleet of ships, all in the hopes of amassing some forces that are capable to standing up to the might of Kylo Ren and the First Order. Now, let's go around, rate the book 1 to 10. don't say why just yet. We'll come back around at the end of the roundtable and see if any of our answers have changed. So, Eric, how about you first? What'd you think?
I'm going to say 9.5.
Wow. Okay.
Starting hot.
5. Corey, what is your lower number than 9.5?
I do not have a number lower than 9.5 because I'm also going to give it a 9.5.
Dang. Okay. All right. I will be the pessimist of the lot by giving it a 9.
So that's really swinging low.
Yeah, low
that should
ball.
go to show you that we do all think very highly of this book, and everything that we've seen really from the Utini community has been really positive as well. I mean, obviously no one has rated it for us, but I imagine most people are in the 8 to 9 range, maybe higher than that, maybe some 10s out there.
I think so.
It is the first book in a while, maybe since like Master and Apprentice, even that has gotten universal love, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did I give? I was thinking about this the other day. Did I give Master and Apprentice a 10? Because I should have. I think I did.
You might have. We got to re-listen.
I need to listen to it again. I can't remember.
We should keep a list of what our final ratings were on all of our roundtables and see like what is our. We should have like an annual champion.
Yeah, we should.
The highest rated one.
Yeah, well, looking ahead for you listeners to our kind of end of the year cycle, the other week we went through and planned out podcast episodes through January because, as Corey was saying, it's going to get very busy. And one of our episodes we're thinking of doing is a year in review to kind of look at all the books that came out this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Ears.
Yes.
You can look at us too, I guess.
If you want. I mean.
If you want. It's fine.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the next part of the roundtable, which is all about the characters. And that's a big part, honestly, of this roundtable and this book. Obviously, the characters were kind of the driving force for this book. We get a ton of characters from other stories in this novel, but to start off, I actually want to focus on those who will play a big part in the Rise of Skywalker. Mm-hmm. And the way that I would like to do that is by talking about a couple of things. One, what we learned specifically about the character in this book that we maybe didn't know before. And two, what that means for the trajectory of that character moving into the Rise of Skywalker. And then time permitting, I have a couple of follow-up questions on the various characters. So let's start at the top of the Resistance with General Leia Organa. So what did you guys feel like you learned that maybe you didn't know from The Last Jedi about Leia in this book? Where is she in her overall story?
She's a lot more hurt than I thought.
Yeah, that's also the direction I was going to go with that. Like, totally.
Yeah, I love that choice. I love that, she kind of has some trauma from being shot out into space and almost dying. And like, all these things are really weighing on her. And I think that, she is such a strong character. And I think that does not get lost in it. But we know she is an older person. And like, just even physically, it hurts her more. It's a little harder to move around. Her spirit isn't broken, but she's definitely a step back, which I thought was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think it really shows that it matters, like what your team is like, because I mean, there was a good part of the early part of this book where she wanted to give up, like she was ready to give up, and we've never seen Princess Leia do that before, like ever. Like she's always just been, the one that everyone looks to when they need that extra hope. I mean, hope is like her thing, right?
Yeah,
and
literally.
she was like ready to let go, and we got to see her sort of turn to some of the more younger and more enthusiastic sort of folks in the Resistance, like Rey and Finn and Poe and that sort of thing, and that was cool to see that, like, the leaders are not infallible, like they have flaws and the ability to give up even. So it was good.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, she was not ready to come out of that coma that she was in The Last Jedi. She got pulled out really from Luke opening himself back up to the Force, but she is hurting. That's absolutely right. And I think it's an interesting point that you bring up, Corey, that we see her handing off some more of her responsibilities, it seems like, because we are used to seeing her be the unquestioned leader. That's still what we saw in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi as well, until maybe the last few moments when she starts to hand the reins over to Poe a little bit. But we were told that the sequel trilogy was the passing of the baton from kind of the old guard to the new, and we saw Han do that in Episode 7. We saw Luke do that in Episode 8, and I think we started to see Leia do it here. It's an entirely new role for her, and I think that's really interesting. So, what does that mean for her story moving into the Rise of Skywalker? I know there are some really big question marks because we don't know what type of material they had for Carrie Fisher, but let's pretend that there are no stipulations from that respect. Let's pretend they could have done anything they possibly wanted. Where do you see her character going just based on what we saw in this book?
I mean,
That's hard.
It's what she did at the end of Last Jedi when she told them, "Don't look at me, follow him." I think the passing the baton is a perfect way to say it, Charles. I think she has done so much for her entire life, quite literally. I mean, from the junior Senate all the way through to now, she's been working for other people,
Right.
raising people up, fighting every day. And I think she is now seeing the next generation with Poe and Rey and Finn being like, we'll take the reins from here, and the galaxy is going to be okay, So I don't think it's in a dire way. I mean, she doesn't have a death wish or anything like that, but I think there is the idea that she can trust other people to take over, and she can let herself feel the losses. I mean, she hasn't really gotten a chance to let Han's death affect her as much. She hasn't gotten a chance to let I think Ben's fall affect her as much as she wants to, because she's had to fight for the resistance. She's had to do all these things. But at the end of the day, her husband's gone and her son is technically kind of gone right now, and that's hard. So I think that we're going to see her be a little more vulnerable because she doesn't have to carry everything on her shoulders all alone.
Yeah. I have sort of an interesting question. I think that sort of goes along with that. The really unfortunate, untimely death of Carrie Fisher sort of forced the writer's hand in this, and that they had to, create the out for the character of General Leia. Do you guys think that we would be seeing a different narrative being told if Carrie Fisher had not passed?
Yes.
How so?
I think again, it's hard to say specifically because we haven't seen the movie yet. But from the interviews and stuff with JJ, like Entertainment Weekly did one recently. Variety had one. He talks about, they found the footage and it was like a gift from Carrie, because they realized, we can write a story around this. But even she said when she was still alive to everyone that Episode 9 was going to be her movie. 7 was kind of Han's, 8 was Luke's, like 9 was Leia. That was the one. And I think that we would have seen her definitely more screen time, obviously, is the easiest thing to say. But I think it would have been more about her ending the chapter for all of them, her carrying the torch to the finish line for everyone in all 3 trilogies, kind of from Padme to Leia to her. And I think she maybe would have had a face-to-face with Kylo to do something there, which we will not get in this movie, I'm pretty sure. So in that respect, I do. I think that they're going to be fine because, again, they didn't start writing 9 until they knew what scenes they had with Carrie. So it'll feel organic because they wrote around them for that purpose. But I definitely think it would have been different.
Yeah, I think it would have been different for the reasons that Eric said. I think we would have seen some more things, maybe her using the Force again.
Wow, really? That's a big jump.
That'd be cool.
I think we definitely could have, but I think it would have ended up in the same place because it was always the plan to, again, pass the baton to these new characters. And so I don't think she was going to necessarily live through the movie and become like the new chancellor or anything like that. So I think that she would have gracefully exited in one way or another, which we'll still see because we have to see it, I think, at least. But I think it would have been a very different path to get to that point.
Absolutely. Hey, real quick, I had to interrupt you guys. So I'm looking in the chat here. We do have some friends that showed up, including our friend Meg Dowell's in here, Trevor Duncanson's in here, and Russ Orlando is in here, and a very special birthday hello to Patrick Ortiz, who joined us. Happy birthday, man. Thank you for spending part of it with us.
Yeah, looks like we have a Trevor Duncanson in there, too, who's been around for a long time. I remember seeing that name come across a lot of Utini packages back in the day, so welcome, Trevor.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? But yeah, happy birthday, dude. So stoked to have you here. Anyway, dive back in, but I wanted to say hi.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask about that, I know we don't do a lot of speculation, but the way that this book, the way that all of the expanded universe has been dealing with Princess Leia has made it very well plausible that she does not actually have to be killed off on screen. Do you think that this book gives us any insight into that?
I don't think she dies in 9.
Really? Interesting. I mean, it just it doesn't seem like it'll have to be a very split moment decision type of thing. I think it will have to be like, which is how deaths usually come. But I don't know.
I don't think you take because of everything surrounding it, right? Like this is the first time kind of in pop culture history. Everyone knows that Carrie died early. Everyone is going into it knowing that they did. Like all this stuff is known ahead of time. So saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, Leia died," is like you don't have the footage of her death, of her giving a last moment, and I think to not give the character and the actress that is a level of doesn't hit the level of respect that she's earned.
Sure.
So I think that we're gonna have her take a step back, but I think that they're gonna keep her alive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting idea too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from, and that makes sense. Like, we wouldn't have footage fitting to give her, I don't know, an appropriate death or exit, but also we don't have any footage of what else that ending could be, right? Like, I mean, are they going to just use exposition also to be like, oh yeah, by the way, she's going to this planet and now she's going to become a Force hermit there, or now she's the Chancellor of the Universe? Like, that's a huge thing to just do with lines as well, the same way that it would be with a death. And I feel like it'd be easier to do a death using some kind of footage, even if you just have footage of her on the bridge of a ship and then that ship gets shot down.
Oh, I think it's easier. I think it's 100% easier. I think if it wasn't Carrie Fisher, 100% they could do it. I just think that it is the respect for the actress and her legacy and history of like. I don't think they'll do it because of how much they love her. I think it's very personal.
Yeah. Yeah,
it definitely is.
I think regardless, the way that this book sets up, like the whole passing of the baton thing is very important for going into the Rise of Skywalker. And if I know we keep saying that this is like a must-read book before seeing the film, but this is why, is because there is a very clear delineation of I am no longer in charge and I want someone else to do this. Like that was very clear in this book. And like the little 2-second scene at the end of The Last Jedi when she's like, no, follow Poe, I don't think quite does that justice.
No, but it's definitely the beginning of where this book kind of ends.
Yeah. Now, I had a follow-up question, but I think honestly, just in our conversation, we've probably covered it, because that question was what does Leia bring to the role of being the leader of the Resistance and the rebellion before that, and why she's such an effective leader. But I mean, I think we
nailed it.
Pretty much just answered that.
Show us.
She is the spirit. I think, Corey, maybe you said that. She is the spirit of the Resistance, of the rebellion.
Right.
In many ways, she is the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, well, let's move on to arguably her protege, who was probably the star of this book, Poe Dameron.
Yep.
So we got a lot of this book dedicated to Poe and to developing his character, I think, in ways that we didn't necessarily expect to see. What did you guys feel like you learned about Poe in this book, and why was it important?
Flyboy. I mean, we saw his evolution, I think that if you read the Poe Dameron comic, which I would highly recommend before reading this book, and if you have read the book and didn't, a lot of characters that Poe hangs out with are from that comic book.
Yeah.
I think it really takes a lot of that characterization and doubles down on it. I think that we saw him being more of a leader. Again, he had the glimpses in Last Jedi where he told everyone to retreat on Crate. that was one action that was good, but he's still very cocky. And then the beginning of this book, we saw him kind of reckoning with the fact that he started a freaking mutiny. Like he betrayed his commanders. He betrayed Leia. He did all these things that are pretty bad that, they won the day, but at what cost?
Right.
So I think we saw him taking responsibility for his actions, really trying to be a leader and realizing that he is kind of the heir apparent and what that entails.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked a lot about that with Rebecca Roanhorse, that, like, at least to me, it was a huge realization going into this book. Like, holy smokes, Poe feels like he completely failed as a leader and completely failed the Resistance by committing that mutiny. Like, it was, I mean, it moved the plot along in The Last Jedi, and it seemed like a completely plausible, situation, the way it played out in The Last Jedi. And, like, we were sort of, as the viewer, were sort of made to think that Admiral Holdo was a bad guy in a lot of ways in The Last Jedi, I think. But, like, I mean, he did a dumb thing is the way he looks at it, and it did not even occur to me before reading this book that was the way he felt, and it was done incredibly well.
It was. I think it's crazy. I almost feel like ashamed to say that when I watched The Last Jedi, even when I realized that Holdo had a plan the entire time, like I didn't really feel like Poe messed up that bad. Like I still kind of felt like he was, I don't know. I was still Team Poe. I was still on his side because I think we're used to seeing the main characters, even when they do things that other people warn them against doing, they're doing the right thing, right? Like Yoda was like, "Don't go try to save your friends, Luke.
Right.
It's not going to turn out well." And Luke's like, "No, I'm going." And I mean, it didn't turn out well for him. Like, lost a hand and whatnot, but he did the right thing because he saved all of his friends.
To some degree, but they would have escaped alone without his help, it seems like. So, like,
maybe
in a way he didn't save his friends. And it just, what I was going to say about that is it is incredibly important in how that sort of story arc is depicted in film, because, like, we don't look at Yoda like an idiot or like a bad guy for not wanting Luke to go to Cloud City and Empire, but we do kind of look at Holdo like, why didn't you just tell Poe the plan? Like, you're an idiot and a bad leader. And that's how I have felt about Holdo for a long time. Like, since I saw The Last Jedi, is like, you should have just told him the plan. Like, what? It seems like a plot hole. You know what I mean? Like, and that was what a lot of people had to say about that whole scene. But in reality, Admiral Holdo was really pissed at Poe for, like, destroying the entire bomber fleet. Like, by defying orders from General Organa. Like he made a lot of really bad calls, and it was not really depicted that way because he was just made out to be a hero and stuff. Like, so it makes you kind of look at Holdo like a bad guy, and makes you look at Poe like he's doing the right thing by committing immunity. But to everybody else, Poe's going off the damn rails, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and there's also the idea that there are some, if we're talking about Yoda and Holdo comparison, right? There is the idea that we are way more likely to trust a mysterious old man that is doing great stuff than we are to trust a woman in charge still in 2019. Like, there's the idea that, hey, lady, just tell the guy. Whereas Yoda's like, hides everything from everyone. And we're like, no, he's got a reason.
Right.
I mean, there's no such thing as an evil Muppet.
Yeah, right. No, I think it's a great point, and how I think the evolution of Holdo throughout the last couple of years has been cool in the Star Wars community, of realizing, that Poe messed up, and seeing him be literally the voice of saying, yes, I did, in this book in canon is very impactful.
Ross Orlando in the chat just had a very interesting comment about like maybe Holdo thought that there was a spy or a leak on board somewhere, and that would have been a really easy line to kind of throw into The Last Jedi, and kind of would have justified her actions in a lot of ways. And I think we're supposed to, because Princess Leia in The Last Jedi was kind of like, you should have trusted. Remember that little short conversation she had with Poe when they were on the little shuttles or whatever going to Crate? She was like, you should have just trusted Holdo. Like, she had a plan. That didn't quite do it justice. I would have much rather have seen Holdo defending her own actions, like from a moral, like, ethical standpoint, rather than, she had that little line about, if you have to, what does she say about Princess Leia? If you have to see hope, I don't know, some crap. Remember that?
If you only
About
believe in
this.
hope when you can see it, you'll never make it through the. Or hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you see it, you'll never survive the night.
Right. And that was a beautiful line, but didn't quite do it justice, I think. So, that's a really long roundabout way to say that, like, just the way that everything was depicted surrounding the Holdo-Poe interaction in The Last Jedi, like, this book corrects a lot of that, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's also the idea, you mentioned her treating everyone like a spy or a leak in Last Jedi, and it makes sense because somehow the First Order knows where they are in Lightspeed, and they have tracked them in a way that should be impossible.
Right, at
and
the time.
In all fairness, the only person she's really not trusting is Poe, who is actively lying to her the entire movie. So,
and disobeyed orders, and like he's being a bad soldier, and there's a lot of right. So
I think
you
it's
don't
also...
tell me the plan, I'm gonna mutiny. Well, okay, dude, like sit down.
I think also when it comes to the resistance or the pure like military side of this story, it's a lot easier to tell, and there's a lot more room for it in the novels, and that's one reason why the expanded universe is amazing and why Legends in canon alike are amazing, because that's another reason why it was told in this book, is because there's not going to be as much time for it in The Rise of Skywalker. We have to focus on some of this Rey, Kylo, potentially return of Palpatine. We don't have time to talk about the nitty gritty of the actual military structure of the Resistance and what's going on there. So I think that plays a factor in it too. But so what does all this mean for The Rise of Skywalker? Is Poe the new leader? Is he going to become General Poe Dameron? What's happening there? Is he going to die? He could die. We don't know. He was supposed to die in The Force Awakens.
That's right.
Maybe they're going to get back around to that. Who knows?
I think weirdly, dude, I can make a case for literally every single character dying in Rise of Skywalker.
Do it. You have
I think
30 seconds.
Oh god. Okay. No. But you know what? I anyone that happens, I will be both surprised and not surprised for every character, and I think that's a testament to the franchise.
Yeah.
Even Claude or Cloud.
Cloud will be the new Chancellor because he is obviously Force sensitive. Amazing.
Corey, what do you think about that? What does this mean for Poe? Where's he going?
I think we'll see Poe kind of move into this very clear leadership standpoint, obviously, like in the beginning of this film. Like, it seems like this book set him up perfectly to do that, and everybody is looking up to him at the end. I think we're going to see that, but that seems fairly obvious, I guess. I don't know. I keep saying that it was so cool to see him struggle with this whole idea, but I think he's ready now. I think this book got him ready for this. Maybe.
And they have 11 months after this book until Rise of Skywalker. So
that's true. Yeah, I think of this as a direct prequel to The Rise of Skywalker, but actually it's more of a direct sequel to The Last Jedi, because there is a lot of time in there. Now, here's the ultimate question. I think this is what the entire point of the story is to answer the question, was Poe redeemed? Did he redeem himself, or does he still have work to do?
Yes, I think he was redeemed, and I didn't know he needed to be redeemed.
100%.
Yeah. I didn't know he needed to be redeemed, like from The Last Jedi, which we've talked about at length now, but like now I see this as, yes, he did need to be redeemed, and a lot of people also felt like he needed to be redeemed, like that he worked with. Like a lot of people in the Resistance felt like he betrayed. And that scene where he gave that really epic speech with all the
thought about that.
All the new people. There's a scene in this book, if you haven't read it, where they like assemble a bunch of new folks, some ex-Imperials, a bunch of really cool people, like Wedge Antilles is brought back. If you missed that plot point, like holy smokes.
It's on page 150. If you are listening and you want to look at it, that's the scene where Poe is like, he gives a speech about how I have done horrible things and I disobeyed my commander, and if no one wants to follow me, I get it. And then one by one, all these different people stand up and say, "This is when you saved me."
Initially, a couple of people, like some old grumpy men in the back, so they made it seem, were like, "Why should we follow you? Didn't you mutiny the last ship or on the Radis or whatever?"
That was me. I'm sorry.
And things started to go south really quickly. His epic little speech was like kind of shut down, which was really beautiful to me because like heroes in books and movies are often depicted as, you stand up, you give this epic speech, and everybody follows you, and it's great. And like
Nah,
Like
bruh.
it was like that guy made Poe look like a giant douchebag.
Yeah.
Poe's like, this is what you do as a leader. I'm gonna give this cool speech because this is the cliche thing that you do when you're a leader. And like a bunch of people were like, yeah, no, man, like you have done a lot of stuff that we don't agree with, so we're not gonna follow you. And then it turned into this really cool thing where a lot of people kind of backed up Poe and were like, Poe has personally saved me, and this is how he's loyal, and it was very good. So that was great.
Yeah. Very much team Podemption in this book and
Yeah.
loved every second of it. Now, we are going to take a quick break here. We've hit the two biggest characters in this book. After this, we're going to hit a bunch of our other favorites that we saw from the film, also some brand new characters, and a shit ton of those great cameos. So, my friends, if you're watching live, stick around, keep chatting away. We'll be right back in a couple minutes.
All right.
Well, yeah, I can get like someone can give you like some Zofran or something at work, but I don't know about an
That
MRI.
sounds fake. Zofran is definitely a Star Wars race.
Zofran does sound like a Star Wars race. It's a very common medication that you give to people in the ED that just vomit incessantly.
I have a whole
No.
bottle of it in a backpack right over here.
Guys, the Zofran clearly live on Zepho.
Do you want to
They
hear
fall
the?
over.
So every medication has like two names. There's like the brand name, which is patented, and then there's like the actual active ingredient.
The
And the
drug
active
name.
ingredient name, for Zofran actually also sounds like a Star Wars term on Dancitron.
Oh, it does.
Dance.
On
Yeah.
Dancitron.
Citron?
On
It also
Dancitron.
sounds like a robot that breakdances, but
Yeah, or like
From-
a Power Ranger villain.
Yeah. Power Ranger villain. Yes, it totally does. That's fantastic.
well,
Dancitron. Like, that's totally
Eric,
it.
we talked about this while you were still, I'm assuming, peeing, since that's really why we do the breaks in our episode.
100%. These are long episodes.
But we were talking about Wes getting your thoughts because you are actually not through Resistance Reborn yet, are you?
Actually, not. No, I'm not. I was going to be done by Monday, but come to
You were
think,
gonna
we
be
have to
done
do it on Saturday.
Right now, if we
Yeah,
weren't.
pretty much.
You can blame
So-
Charles. It's his shitty ED shift that he's on that's making
It
us
is.
do this.
It is my fault. My ED shifts are terrible.
That's okay.
The timing is really bad, but that just goes to show the dedication of Wes and the entire Utini team. Well, I don't know that we've done any major spoilers just yet.
You haven't, or
Um,
haven't been paying attention.
No, we honestly
you're-
won't hit any till probably the big questions.
Yeah, probably not. But you're here and you're willing to spoil yourself on this book. I think that speaks volumes. So
I'll finish it
Think
this
so.
weekend, so it won't be too bad.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Well, hey guys, I know we're back live right now, but for our audio purposes, I'm gonna bring us back officially, so we can
Cool.
do this for our live folks. Thanks, you got to see a little bit of our mid-show chat,
That's right.
which usually goes into variations on beer, peeing, and doctoring. So
This time we hit the wide-ranging topic of coffee-inducing diarrhea. So you missed that.
all right, well, I'm gonna bring us back in just a second, and we are back. Welcome back to episode 31 of the Living Force podcast, our Resistance Reborn Roundtable. After
Isn't it
did I say
32?
it's 32? Oh man, it is 32. Whatever, I messed it up.
What
That,
episode
you know
is
what?
this?
That clip we just listened to hit me so hard emotionally and wrecked me that I
You
wasn't
should.
able to properly bring us back from break.
You just
You
got
get it.
thrown all the way back to last week. That's impressive.
I did. I hope it's more of Matt's childhood because those cameos are awesome.
Oh, they're so good. All right. Well, let's jump back into some of the characters we were discussing. We have a couple of other big ones that I wanted to talk about, but to be honest with you, they were not the focus of this novel. So I think we're probably going to have a little bit less to say. But let's talk about Rey. She is obviously hugely important to the Rise of Skywalker. And so you would think that maybe she would have a big part to play in this book, but not so much. She was probably a little bit off limits for this novel because there's so much to do on screen when we do get to the Rise of Skywalker. But I still think we got some glimpses into her and where she is in her journey right now. So what do you guys think that you learned about Rey, if anything, and where do you think she is in her journey?
It was really cool to hear Rebecca Roanhorse talk about the fact that like Lucasfilm and Del Rey essentially said don't touch that character, like because that's going to be the biggest stuff that is going to be in the Rise of Skywalker for obvious reasons. But like, I mean, she still did like kind of indirectly reveal some pretty big stuff about Rey, right? Like you were sort of led to believe at the end of The Last Jedi that Rey had figured things out, that she'd moved into this sort of confident stage of being a Jedi, and this is what she is now. And like this book opens like pretty hot right out the gate with like, no, she doesn't have anything figured out. She has even probably more doubts than she did even before, and now she doesn't have a mentor to like teach her the ways of the Force and stuff. So that was very cool to me that like she doesn't have it figured all out, because you see that with Luke in Return of the Jedi. Like he comes in this cool, calm, and collected sort of guy, like at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. So
Yeah, I liked that as well. I like that vulnerability. I liked how she isn't quite sure where she fits in with the whole Resistance as well. The scene with her and Leia, that them drinking tea, which was a preview before the book was released, so everyone kind of got to read that scene first.
One of
I
my
think
favorite
it's-
scenes of the book.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the best scenes, and I think it's definitely her best scene. Um, you get a little bit of info about her and Kylo, about how she hasn't given up on him. How she's still kind of wondering if he can be redeemed. Talks to Leia about that and all that jazz. So while I don't think we got any major reveals because, like Corey said, Rebecca was kind of shooed away from that kind of stuff. There's some good raid content. I don't think she's really in that different of a place than she was at the end of 8, except for, maybe a little more, I don't know, a little more nervous about her own Force abilities. But beyond that, it wasn't huge.
You know what? You guys just changed my mind a little bit about what was done. One of my small gripes about this book was that I didn't feel like the depiction of Rey was really in line with what I saw at the end of The Last Jedi, because we saw her be very confident and very capable in the end of The Last Jedi. And then in this book, in a lot of ways, I felt like she seemed like she did at the beginning of The Force Awakens, very unsure. In that scene that we got with her having tea with Leia, I got this vibe of like a scared young girl talking to her grandmother. Like that was the vibe I got from that scene. And that struck me as, I don't know, incongruent with what we'd seen previously. But I love the point that you brought up, Corey, that, she's probably one of those people that performs when she needs to, but she's still very unsure of herself. And when she's not in those moments, she's very scared because there's a ton of weight on her shoulders, not just this war, but all the ramifications in the Force itself.
Right. Yeah, that's a really great point to bring up too, is like she has like a skill that like she performs incredibly well when she's like in the moment and has to, and like that is very clear in this book too, and it was really pointed out in a couple different scenes, right? Like when bad guys were coming in, she'd take out her lightsaber and all was well, right? And she clearly has like, I really appreciate the fact that she was depicted as being sort of afraid and having flaws and that sort of thing, but also like she wasn't like, yes, in that scene, a scared young girl talking to her grandmother, yes, in that scene, but like maybe that's not like what she's depicted as always, right? Like,
yeah,
so,
she's well rounded. I mean, you had those moments where
she's
Empire,
not weak, right? She's strong. Like she is
No.
strong.
Exactly.
She kicked butt on Ryloth.
When yeah, totally. And that's what's cool and redeemable about that whole depiction, is that like she does have fears, and it's fun to see that she has fears and faults, but like also she is a badass and is still cool and was not made weak in this book at all.
No, and my only critique on Rey is unfortunately from the audiobook. I thought that Mark Thompson's portrayal of her was really weak, as far as like the literal voice that he used for her was very light, and it didn't really have any of the strength behind it, and that took me out. So I as far as the Rey sections go, I very much enjoyed reading those physically as opposed to listening to them, because I thought that there was a little commentary on the portrayal that she was a bit weaker than she was.
Now that's a very cool thing to bring up too, because we talked about that a lot with Rebecca last week, of like she really nailed the voices like of and the depictions and the dialogue of the characters, and we all felt like, we asked her like, was it difficult to like create those voices and get them right, and she said no, it wasn't, because they were already well done. But that is a completely different question when it comes to audiobook narration. Like getting a voice right is very, very challenging. Like Mark Thompson told us a lot when we interviewed him about getting Yoda right. That was really important. But getting a feminine major character from the new series right, I imagine
his voice is very like, everyone knows exactly what she sounds like.
And
I think that's why you have a little less leeway.
I imagine that's incredibly challenging.
Oh, for sure. Now, from what we were just talking about, something jumped out at me that I hadn't even thought about while we were reading the book, and maybe this is because you guys just entirely changed my mind about that entire point. But I think it's really interesting that when Rey got introduced to Yendor on Ryloth, she said that she was basically nobody. She repeated what she was told by Kylo Ren. And so we see that she still feels that way, and maybe took what Kylo Ren said to heart. And then Leia and Yendor both are just like, well, actually, you're somebody, all right. You were Luke's apprentice, more or less. So that's a really interesting thing. So I'm wondering if maybe she took that conversation to heart.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that it's a very good point to realize that Rey is someone who was alone for so long that I think she does take what other people say about her to heart because it hasn't happened that much.
Right.
You know, she hasn't had the years that you have to build up your resistance to other people's thoughts about you. So the Kylo thing I think hit her pretty hard, but also in the same way, what Leia says about her in those terms, I hope does stick the landing and does really, like you were saying, kind of inform how she believes in herself going in episode 9.
Totally.
Yeah. Now, we could talk about Finn as well, but to be entirely honest with you guys, I don't think he got very much development in this book. He kind of finned his way through it.
I think there's one thing we can talk about with Finn in this book.
What's that?
And I think...
Oh, yeah, I know where this is going.
Okay, so...
Is this about...
Oh, yeah.
Pomance?
Yes, there is. So there's a couple of very important questions that weren't necessarily answered, but were hinted at near the end of this book. Because for the last couple of movies, people have been wondering, who is Finn paired with? Is it Rey? Is it Rose? Is it Poe? What's going on? So before the big mission at the end, Finn and Poe are getting ready to go to this big party where they're going undercover. And they're getting ready. And Finn tells Poe straight up that he and Rey and he and Rose are just friends. They're like, we talked about it.
Right.
They're not romantically involved.
Super interesting.
However,
like it was just straight up like that was completely explained. Like I'm so shocked that was revealed in the book. So shocked by that. Like,
he's like, we're just friends, and Poe says, I'm having trouble keeping up with all your just friends.
Right.
Which is and then there are a bunch of other little conversations that Poe has with other people about Finn, where people are like, oh, is Finn going with you? And he's like, well, yeah. And they go, oh, of course. You know, so I think for people that either ship Finn Poe or want to see a little bit of that, there's definitely some pretty strong hints in this book. Like he ties his tie for him.
Right.
He does all these things that I think if that's the way it goes in episode 9, they definitely laid the groundwork in this book. So I think that's the main thing for
There's
Finn.
definitely room for headcanon is a good way to put it in a lot of ways. And like you
Yeah.
guys know from hearing us talk about this, I don't think any of us really ship. Like that's a word that gets thrown around a lot. We don't really ship anything super hardcore at UT. I don't think any of us do we? Like
no,
really.
I think it
not to that level.
We're pretty neutral, honestly, about all of it.
Yeah.
We choose joy and we choose to enjoy any of it, and we're just gonna like it how it is.
Well,
like
it sets expectations for the film, and we've talked about before why that's actually a dangerous mindset to have, because then you're pissed if it doesn't happen and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yep.
But it was very interesting getting a hard answer. Like, is Rose and Finn, is that a romantic thing going on? The answer is no. Like, he straight up said, no, we're just friends. We talked about it and we're just friends. That's what was coolest to me. It wasn't just like it wasn't just an awkward, so you and, you know, it's like, oh, no, she kissed me and we never really talked about it. It wasn't that at all. It was like, no, we talked about it and we're cool. So
let's get a comic miniseries of just Finn defining the relationship with everybody.
Well, and I think what that allows Finn to do is escape the little box that people try to put him in of who is he dating? What's he doing? I think that what this does, it allows him to kind of accept the arc that he's really been given through these movies. He starts episode 7 as a freaking stormtrooper that has been born and bred to kill. And by the end of episode 8, he acknowledges, he's like, I am rebel scum. This is what I have done. And the reason I say that is that Trevor in the chat brought up the idea, who is Finn? You know, he says he's having trouble feeling emotionally connected with him, and kind of, is he just a filler character? And I think that what they're doing with him by getting rid of the Rey and Rose potential romances is saying, no, he's going to be his own man, and he is kind of our light in this saga of being a person that is raised evil, quote unquote, but escapes it willingly and finds a new family. And he is now, because in episode 7 and most of episode 8, he's still just fighting for Rey.
That's right.
He's still just helping his friend out, whereas by the end of 8, he's fighting for the resistance.
Right.
And I think that in episode 9, John Boyega has been very vocal about it. He's like, Finn gets his. He is now a resistance fighter.
Which is great.
That's awesome.
It's so good
he's
to
leading
see.
that charge.
Yeah, something else I was going to briefly mention too is like it's always very encouraging to me. Like my only sort of, I hate to have anything negative to say. My only sort of complaint about the whole shipping certain relationships in Star Wars that I'm just not super crazy about. Is that like it makes romance such an important aspect of the character's story, and there's so much really really good storytelling that has nothing to do with romance, right? And this is a trend that we've always seen in Star Wars. And I just finished. If you guys haven't watched the Star Wars documentary on Disney Plus, you have to watch it. It's so good.
Empire of Dreams.
Yeah, Empire of Dreams is very very good. And there was this whole section when it was talking about Empire. Like they actually went back, like you didn't hear about it then, not the age of the internet, but there's a bunch of reshoots in Empire, and they reshot all of the scenes involving Leia and Han in Cloud City, and specifically the little scene where Leia's in that white and sort of brown undergown outfit.
Yeah,
and
right before Lando shows up and they go to the dinner, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So the original scene, they actually showed the entire scene in the documentary. It was really really cool. It's like it's a super romantic scene, and her and Han like kiss, and he says "I love you," and it's like what the hell? Like this is very
Don't need it.
dirty romance, and they like made it like they felt like it needed to be more subtle, that is Star Wars romance to me. Is that it's subtle, it's not like really in your face, and like regardless of any of the drama between any of the characters, it's just there's more things at stake, I guess, and it's always cool to see that. So I appreciate that like we got a little bit of food for thought with some of these relationships and stuff, and stuff for the communities that are really into that, like stuff for them to talk about and dream about, and that's cool. And I like that the inclusivity of that. It didn't just shut it all down, which is kind of harsh, but it was fun, and I really appreciated that it was handled very well in this book.
100%.
Yeah, and it's also, just to clarify, if you do ship one of those relationships, go for it, have fun with it.
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Take it to the point where you're angry if it doesn't happen or anything like that. That's all we're saying. But
100%.
Wes, before we kind of move on from these major characters, I want to hear from you as well. What was your favorite depiction of a major character in this novel? Who did you think was the most well done or had the best arc or the best told story, and why do you feel that way? With 80 pages left, we understand.
Yeah, so in full disclosure, I have not finished Resistance Reborn. I'm 80 pages from, but one of the main characters, I mean, obviously I would say Poe, but one of the characters that I've kind of latched onto is Shriv. Is that his name? From
We're gonna be talking about him in a second.
Loved him. Loved his sarcasm. I loved his how he's kind of fatherly to Zay, and I just like his banter back and forth with a couple of the other crew members. So that's kind of the character that I latched onto.
Great choice. Absolutely.
Ride hard for Shriv.
Yeah, totally. No, Trevor asked a really interesting question in the chat. He said, "Who is Finn? Like, is he somebody that we're supposed to be incredibly emotionally connected to? Like, he said he wants a Finn novel. That's always a really fun.
Yeah, I know. I like the Finn novel, and I think that just what we're discussing there really kind of puts him in a good place. But hey, I'm all for that. Give us that Finn book. I want to see what happens to Finn after this.
Yeah,
give Boyega some more money. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of the characters, I think, you learn who they are by where their story ends up, and so I think we're still learning who Finn is, and I think we'll get that answer on screen in episode 9.
Yep.
But let's touch briefly on some of the main players from the First Order plot in this novel as well. So let's start with the first one I want to talk about. There's Winnie the Pooh, and then there is Winnie the Shit, as I call Winchester. How disgusting is he? Right?
Yes.
Like that's my only question. I mean, just like how just gross was this
Absolutely.
guy?
So if you haven't read the book Winsher Bratz, you were talking about, he's this
Winsher Bratz.
Oh my god!
Like even his last name is
saying
like,
saying it in your filling the syllables in your mouth just feels disgusting. Like it's great. He's an Imperial that is a very classic Imperial story that he was nothing and given power and doesn't know how to deal with power, and he thinks he's better than everybody. Like he is scum, man. And I told you guys last week when we were talking to Rebecca, like my wife, who's a therapist, came home and said that she had this long day of therapy dealing with all these folks and their trauma and things like that. She had to come home and she was listening to the audiobook. She said she had to turn it off because she said she wanted to throw up when Winsher beat the crap out of Yama. She said it made her physically nauseous. Like, he's such a disgusting character. And like, I know that like it sucks he's a terrible character, that sort of thing, but man, what good writing to elicit such a physical disdain for a character without being overly vulgar like Game of Thrones, right?
Nope.
Winsher did not have to shoot hookers with a crossbow in order to make you feel like he's disgusting. It was really, really well done.
Winsher was great because I think he's all the more terrifying for being a regular dude. Right, he didn't grow up in the Imperial Academy and know he was going to be evil. He's not a Sith. He's a freaking pencil pusher from Corellia that when the First Order came, he's like, oh, sure, I'll be with them. And it's a bunch of little, like, concessions that he's like, okay, I'll take this job. I'll take this promotion. And then it's little thing, little thing, little thing, little thing. And then at the end of 9 million little things, he becomes this guy that will beat the life out of this young girl.
Yeah.
And kind of turn his back on everything he's been raised on. And I think that is, like, in a terrifying way, the most realistic type of villain.
Yeah.
Especially in the modern day. It's not the person that is mustache twirly and knows they're doing all these evil things. It's not even someone like Tarkin who is looking at the Death Star being like, yep, we'll kill millions of people. It is the guy in middle management that has been made fun of on his local planet for a while, that has been given a little bit of power.
Yeah.
And then he takes it all the way and goes absolutely crazy. And his inner monologue was great. Another shout out to Rebecca's writing, in the way that he always said, well, this one guy looked at me weird, but he must have been looking at the person behind me because I'm not doing anything wrong. So there's no way he could have been angry at me. That's right.
A lot of denial and misdirection and things like that.
A great villain. Not the flashiest Star Wars villain by any means, but I think one of the scariest, frankly.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that you just summed up the answer to what my real major question, besides how big of a piece of crap is this guy. But my real question was, what do you think about a pivotal novel in Star Wars having a main antagonist who's actually just this low-ranking regular guy? And you summed it up beautifully. I mean, the book did not suffer because we didn't have Kylo Ren or the Emperor, at the helm of the antagonists of the story, essentially.
Yeah, and a shout out in our chat. We got Trevor, Ross, and Juliana, all three of them in a chorus being like, yep, amazingly well written. Hated him so much.
Totally.
And Travel Films.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
Character you love to hate. Somebody said that in there. That's.
Oh, and Trevor just said, I've worked with people like him. It's so relatable. And I think that's one of the things. Know a Winsher brat at your work.
Right. That's right. Somebody who just doesn't understand that they're the bad guy, and that is so important and realistic, and is like everything that's wrong with the Empire and the First Order, and it's great. I loved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really a great villain.
So we mentioned Yama. Let's talk about her really quickly. She was basically a young, new First Order member who was working for Winsher Brat, and she got bullied by him verbally throughout the story, and then eventually physically as well. She got absolutely brutalized by this guy. Ultimately, she gets rescued by the Resistance in a pretty awesome moment. But what were we supposed to take away from her storyline? What is the lesson? Why did we have a Yama outside of having the person that we needed for Winsher Brat to fully reveal who he was?
So I think something very interesting psychologically happens, like, as you learn more and more about this character, and like, I don't know what this says about myself, but this is what happened in my internal dialogue when learning about Yama. Like, we're introduced with her, like, as her being this, like, sort of intern that's incompetent and, like, kind of, like, not really well kept. Like, she's described as being sort of lazy. And I don't know about you guys, but I was sort of on Brat's side, like, as she was introduced. Like it was told in a very believable fashion that, like, she is a crappy intern that doesn't really believe in this. She is lazy. Like, she does to kind of deserve what's coming to her. That sort of thing is how she was depicted. But then as you learn more about Winsher, the more you realize he's evil, right, deep down.
Yeah.
And he's wrong and she's innocent. And, like, his sort of how you just psychologically learned about Yama and Winsher kind of as the story progressed. It was a really beautiful direct flip of, like, one is the villain and one is not, and it was so well done. Like, I absolutely loved it.
Yama made me think a lot of a student, right? Because one of my day jobs, I work in schools a lot with high schoolers, and the way she was described sounded a lot like a bitter person in like their 30s or so talking about a teenager.
Oh
But
yeah.
being like she's lazy and she doesn't do the work and her belt's askew and like kids these days kind of stuff.
Okay,
And
boomer.
yeah, exactly. But so I had that moment of like, yes, those kids annoy me sometimes, and I get frustrated about things teenagers do, sure. But there's also this protective nature that I think Rebecca writes in very well for the reader. By the end of it, you're like, listen, dude, she's not doing the best job in the world. She doesn't really believe in the First Order like you do, but she's just a kid.
Yeah.
And making her, specifically 15 or so as opposed to 23.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I think is pretty huge because she is a kid and she is someone that is just like an intern at a summer job. And this guy, how it ends up is so horrific. And the idea of, the resistance coming in to save her at the end is great because all you want to do with Yama by the end is just wrap her up in a blanket and be like, it's okay. It's not your fault. It was his bad day. And I can't remember a time we've had someone like that in Star Wars before.
Yeah.
I think it's such a specific relationship to have with a character. Really well done.
Travi Films in the chat said that he's a lot like Uncle Vernon in the Harry Potter series, and that's a very beautiful.
Oh wow, that's perfect.
Yeah, and then Ross said it seemed like a less important version of Hux, and both of those are really, really great analogies.
Oh my god, yeah, Hux without a Star Destroyer behind him, without his daddy's influence. If Hux hadn't been the son of,
Yeah, Winshire Brat is the same type of person as Hux, and he would do exactly the things that Hux does if he was in that position, for sure. Great comparison. All right, so it's insane that we took this long to get to this point in this roundtable, because one of the most amazing things about this book is how many characters it pulls in from other stories, be that video games, comics, other novels. And I want to talk through every last one of them, but we would be here until Monday, and we don't have that much time.
Wes has to finish the book. We have to let him go.
Yes. So I just want to run through a list of them right now, and you guys tell me about your favorite people that were brought into this story, why you felt that way, what they added to this story. The floor is really going to be yours, but just to name some of the major ones. So we did get Zay, Versio, and Shriv, which Wes already mentioned from Battlefront 2. We got Riken back. We got Ransom Casterfo back. We got Yendor, who's been in several different things in canon. We got Ora Marco. Anyone? That was a great callback.
What is that from? I don't know the reference.
So he's the weird-looking guy, pirate-looking guy with the eye patch that was kind of in the background of the original trilogy.
Wow. Return of the Jedi, I think.
Wow, yeah. Just Google him. You'll recognize him instantly. But, I mean, it's just amazing. That's such a great callback character. It's amazing. I knew him just by name only because of the Star Wars card trader app.
I'm so impressed by this random knowledge. Like, this is like such a random character.
Well, that has helped. That app specifically has helped me know names of some of the most random characters. But
yeah, because you get 8,000 copies of the same card.
Yeah, exactly. So, who was your favorite addition to this novel, and why?
Ori Marco, this guy. Oh my god, sorry. All right,
listen,
I'm putting this on the screen right now so you can see this if you're live. Like, this is Ori Marco, this guy. This is didn't he have a whole Robot Chicken skit, like, of being like Prune Man or something? Like, have you guys seen that? Prune Face, yeah. What a great callback.
He does. Dude. He looks like a shriveled up potato with an eye patch.
He 100% does.
All right, I'm gonna jump in and put my favorite was one that you didn't even mention, Charles.
Oh God, who?
It's goddamn Wedge Antilles.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't say Wedge.
So who's actually less of a? I mean, honestly, a lot of these characters are less than cameos and more of like major characters in this book, which is also insane. She gave so much time.
Wedge and Nora, that's his wife's name, is Nora?
And Nora Wexley from the Aftermath trilogy, which, as we've said on this show, I ride so hard for. But I think Wedge was one of the best written characters in this whole book. I mean, he might be my MVP even over Poe, in the way that Rebecca wrote him. I loved his his kind of attitude towards his peaceful life of farming. I loved how he and Nora had kind of made this little section of fantasy for themselves on this planet, but then they got sucked right back into the fight. And it was never a question about whether they were going back or not, but I think the reality of him facing his demons and being like, if I go back, we're probably going to die. And we've had a good run, but we got to help the kids, essentially, you know?
That was good. And also, we should point out that it's set up in a way that he could 100% be in episode 9 if they wanted to do it. I'm not even gonna spoil it for Wes, but like it's set up in a very nice way in that like Wes is like cheering in the background. Like it's set up in a way that like he doesn't have to be in the film, but also he can be if they did it right. He could totally be in the film.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, Trevor in the chat saying, did anyone else miss the other Aftermath characters? Yeah, it did, Trevor. Yeah. Man, if Sinjir or Jas showed up, I would have lost my goddamn mind.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, those are my MVP cameo characters. Wedge and Nora, phenomenal job in this book.
Also, I really loved all of Black Squadron too being in there was really cool from the Poe Dameron comic. Yeah, we talked a lot with Rebecca about that last week. If you missed that episode of like she really did a research, and there was honestly I think there were more shout outs to other expanded universe stuff in this book than ever before, and like that's what makes this book so good and so important is like the book matters and touches the major characters and also shouts out all the EU. It feels like Heir to the Empire or like the X-Wing series when it's referencing stuff like this, and it was really great. It's the first book that I feel like we've ever had that gives everybody the credit that they deserve, like with all the other writing in the EU. So it's great.
Yeah. So Corey, what about you? Who's your champion addition to this novel from another story?
That's a great question. I really enjoyed Shriv. He was fantastically written. Fantastically written. I loved him in Battlefront too. He was my favorite character in that story. I really liked that they brought Ransom Consterfo back. Like he's a great character. It was really cool to see him brought back. But we got
that's when I freaked out the most. That was the most surprising because we all kind of heard Wedge was probably going to be in the book, but when they said Ransom Consterfo, I'm like, what?
I know. Like he's not like. And she didn't create this character. That's what's so cool about it. This is an expanded universe character that she did not write. She said she specifically got permission from Claudia Gray to put this character in there. So that's incredible. That's so cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And now I have not read its Bloodline, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually haven't read that novel, so it'll be fun for me. It didn't feel there wasn't as much weight to that reveal.
Did
I
you
knew
know
the
who
name.
The character was? Did you know anything about him?
I was familiar with it honestly just from hearing people in the Utini team talk about Bloodline because that's a pretty highly regarded book, I think, amongst the Utini team.
One of our best.
Bloodline is one of the only other books that sort of touches on the important stuff for canon because it kind of sets things up for the First Order in a lot of ways. But Casterfo in that book is he's like somebody who's like really obsessed with Nazi culture, says he's not a Nazi, and
I love collecting Imperial things. Not that I'm an Imperial.
Right, exactly. So like it's somebody that has a whole lot of Nazi propaganda at their house, and like they go in and they show you their their office. And my office is Star Wars. Their office is like Nazi propaganda, and you're like, this is a little uncomfortable for me right now. That's Ransom Casterfo, but he's a great character. He's redeemed properly in that book, and like. It's really done well in this book.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to go back and actually read that as kind of a prequel now and see the background on the character. But, if I can answer my own question, I would probably say Shriv because y'all know I have a weird obsession with Duros. So I'll leave that alone. I won't go back into Shriv because clearly he was very popular and we've already talked about him. But I mean, it was amazing to have Yendor back. Yendor we see all the way back in Lost Stars, another Utini favorite, when he's just a pilot. And then obviously he pops up a couple of times along the way and now is the head of this resistance force on Ryloth that's very reminiscent of the Cham Syndulla stuff that we've seen in the past.
Did you guys think we were going to see Hera? I did.
I didn't.
For a minute, I did when it went to Ryloth. Yeah.
But we got to see what happens in Alphabet Squadron.
That's true.
Right. Now, one name that we did not see that we know is going to play a factor in The Rise of Skywalker is Lando. So Where do you guys think Lando is? Has he been captured? Is he in prison and we haven't found him yet? Or where has he been?
I 100% thought that they were going to go get Lando when they went to get Wedge and Nora. I 100% thought that was where it was going to go, and it didn't. That's not what we got. So I think that's just a story they want to reserve for the film.
Yep, 100%.
I think that's fair, but we kind of learned in this novel when we watched The Last Jedi, we thought people didn't respond to Leia because they just didn't really believe in her and her cause anymore. That's what we were kind of led to believe. And then in this novel, we learned that, well, maybe they do believe in her cause and they were not able to answer her call. But we know Lando didn't answer. So if he's not imprisoned, then he was kind of just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, people listen. People like act like Lando's a big hero, man. But he's a lot like Han Solo, and that there's a big moral gray area when it comes to Lando Calrissian.
He's pretty two-faced.
Yeah,
I think there's a great chance that in Episode 9 we get to meet him like we did in Solo, where we're going through a place and he's at a sabacc table.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
He gets sucked into things and he doesn't want to be, but he does anyway. Because maybe Chewie tells him that Han's dead. Oh my God, that would be so great.
Don't you do that to me?
I know.
All right. Well, let's round this out, guys. We're running long, but I mean, the characters in this book were just so well done, and there were so many to talk about that I'm not at all surprised. We got to hit on the new characters that Rowan Horse brought into this book, because she wrote all of these ones that were created by other people so well, but she also introduced some new ones of her own. Tiza Nas was, I think, one of the favorites that we had. Yama, like we already mentioned, Winshire Brat. I mean, Winnie the Shit. Stronghammer. Was it? That's right? Stronghammer?
Stronghammer. Thank you. Yeah, that guy.
If you didn't read his voice with like a Russian accent, you did it wrong.
Yep, go back. Try again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so out of all of those new characters, and there are probably more, actually the character from the prologue was amazing. I don't even think we got a name for her, but she was very in the same vein of Paige Tico, I think. Who was your favorite, and who do you want to see come back if they can come back? Because without spoiling it, some of them maybe cannot.
All right, first thing I want to say is, because I think I saw this in the chat earlier, is the Scrap Planet, is that the one from Fallen Order?
Yeah.
Man, I did not realize that at all.
Dude, when you're running around Fallen Order in that shipyard, you can see the maw, the Ibdis Maw. If you look over the edge.
Man, I'm going to have to start a new file and play that again, because that sounds cool.
The fact that you're 100% through that game, by the way, I just have to say, it blows my freaking mind, because Zepho is a godforsaken labyrinth.
I know. I did it.
I can't handle it.
I did it really fast. I played the game to 100% completion in all of, 3 sittings. I don't know how I did it, but I did.
Also, if you never met Corey Helton, that's the most Corey Helton thing he's ever done, though.
I know. that's so true. I speed read. I can do things really fast. It's just
you built a company because you were bored during med school.
I know. Funny enough, I'm not a genius by any means, though. I'm kind of good at a lot of things, but not like an expert at anything. So anyway,
you're just manic.
It. I probably have bipolar disorder, guys. But let's not go into that.
On a light note, who's your favorite new character?
Yeah, answer the gosh question.
Oh, man, let me stay up all night and for 3 days in a row to determine this answer. I absolutely love Tiza Nas. We talked about this a lot with Rebecca too. If there's any character I want to see an entire spin-off of, it's Tiza Nas. I would 100% was I think I went on this daydream when I was reading about this about a Thor Ragnarok Star Wars story about Tiza Nas would just be so freaking good. She's this
in her fighting arena on Rat Attack.
Yes. Okay. So Tiza Nas, she's an ex-Imperial who went completely off the deep end after the Emperor was killed, and is became an Imperial warlord, gang lord, barbarian. They say she wears this animal pelt thing on one shoulder, armor,
it's so badass.
Oh god. And she is she's the person that you want on your side, but everybody is really uncomfortable with their morality and ethics. Everything about it was just okay, you're ex-Imperial, we could really use you, but your ruthlessness, the amount of people that you've tortured, and how much you know about how to break somebody is a little uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was incredible. I mean, I think I got to give the belt to Winsher Bratt just because, I mean, he did have, sorry, Winnie the Shit. I think he did have,
Thank you.
the most to do in this book, frankly. So just by the nature of necessity, he had the most character development. But I think for all the reasons we said earlier, he has stuck with me since I finished this book.
I think that's fair. That's fair. I'm going to agree with T's and As for me personally, just purely for the callbacks to Legends, that she was like a warlord essentially following the fall of the Empire, which we saw a lot in Legends in the X-Wing series specifically. And then also the callback to Rat Attack. And we know a little bit about that planet because that's where Asajj Ventress spent a lot of time when she kind of formed into who she was. And so you can learn more about that in Dark Disciple, and you can also learn about that in Dooku Jedi Lost. But all right, guys, we have been really talking a whole bunch. We've got to save some for next week when we get to our overarching questions. So that'll wrap it up for the character section of this breakdown of this roundtable. And I'm going to kick it back to Eric to take us home.
All right, man. Before we get out of here, one last comment from the chat by T-Rabby Films says it all. This is the golden era of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I totally.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
It definitely feels like that, like leading up to the Rise of Skywalker, and I hope that we're not just riding the wave of the Rise of Skywalker. The EU right now is finally at a place where we can actively reference other stories, where authors are actively talking to each other about the characters that they created, and like we're finally reaching a peak sort of Star Wars expanded universe that is very similar to like the way Legends was in its prime. So like if there's ever a time to get into the books, man, like now is it. And I can't wait to see where Star Wars goes after this film.
I mean, this weekend we're playing a video game where you can go to a planet in the game that is referenced in only a novel. Your master in the game has a whole comic book about her, and the lightsaber you build in the game can be the exact replica of the lightsaber you build at a theme park that is based off another novel. Like,
yes. Right.
It's incredible.
What the hell?
It's incredible. I know. It's nuts.
Amazing. But guys, thank you to everyone that has been tuning in the chat. We freaking love you guys. To everyone that is listening, both on Patreon and on the regular podcast feed, thank you so much for listening. And on that, my friends, that'll do it for this week's episode of The Living Force, our Resistance Roundtable Part 1. If you are new to the show, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tune in every single week to hear us at Utini talk about the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you haven't to help people find us, and head over to utini.com for reviews, articles, and comprehensive book profiles on every single story in the Star Wars galaxy. If you're looking to buy some books or some comics and you want to help support this show, look up that book on Utini. Click on the Amazon link on the profile. We'll get a few cents to help keep the lights on. And if you'd like to help us out more directly, you can find us on patreon.com/Utini. You get some cool extra shows over there. Or on TeePublic, where our first wave of t-shirt designs are now live. Charles is wearing his today. I'm getting mine next week. Join us on Patreon for exclusive content every month. For $2 a month, you can join our Jedi Initiate level. You get early access to these episodes on Thursday. And for $5 a month, you'll become a Guardian of the Wills, where you'll receive extra shows every single month, including Legends Look Back and Bounty Hunt, which is coming out every single episode of The Mandalorian. If you are at the Inquisitor tier or up, head over to Patreon right now to join us for Aftermath, our exclusive after-show hangout, where this week we'll actually be doing our first council meeting, our monthly Q&A session. So you can watch that live, and that will be in your feed later as well. If you can't make it, don't worry. On Patreon and in your podcast feed for our Inquisitors, it'll be there. A special thank you, as always, to Adam Dyson in our Alliance High Command and to Patrick Ortiz on our Jedi High Council for their amazing support of this show. If you want your thoughts on those Q&As, email us at livingforcepod@utini.com, tweet at us at livingforcepod, or join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/discord. We are on Twitter. I am at Eric Eilerson. Corey is at Doc Star Wars MD. Charles is at C. Henkel. A special thank you, as always, to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Freddie, our producer, Wes, our community manager, who hang out with us all day despite his fear of spoilers. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podcasting with me. And as always, may the Force be with you.